A man does what he must in spite of personal consequences, in spite of obstacles and dangers and pressures, and that is the basis of all human morality. A man may die, nations may rise and fall, but an ideal lives on. A nation reveals itself not only by the men it produces, but also by the men it honors, the men it remembers. But however close we sometimes seem to that dark and final abyss, let no man of peace and freedom despair, for he does not stand alone. Change is the law of life, and those who look only to the past or the present are certain to miss the future. Children are the world's most valuable resource and its best hope for the future. Dante once said that the hottest places in hell are reserved for those who in periods of moral crisis maintain their neutrality. For one true measure of a nation is its success in fulfilling the promise of a better life for each of its members. Let this be the measure of our nation. I am certain that after the dust of centuries has passed over our cities, we, too, will be remembered not for victories or defeats in battle or in politics, but for our contribution to the human spirit. I have a nice home, the office is close by, and the pay is good. I have said that control of arms is a mission that we undertake particularly for our children and our grandchildren, and that they have no lobby in Washington. If a free society cannot help the many who are poor, it cannot save the few who are rich. If freedom is to survive and prosper, it will require the sacrifice, the effort, and the thoughtful attention of every citizen. If more politicians knew poetry, and more poets knew politics, I am convinced the world would be a little better place in which to live. In serving his vision of the truth, the artist best serves his nation. In the Chinese language, the word crisis is composed of two characters, one representing danger and the other opportunity. It is increasingly clear that no matter what party is in power, so long as our national security needs keep rising, an economy hampered by restrictive tax rates will never produce enough jobs or enough profits. It may be different elsewhere, but democratic society in it, the highest duty of the writer, the composer, the artist is to remain true to himself and to let the chips fall where they may. Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe to assure the survival and the success of liberty. Let us not emphasize all on which we differ, but all we have in common. Let us consider not what we fear separately, but what we share together. Libraries should be open to all except the censor. My fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. My fellow Americans, let us take that first step. Let us step back from the shadow of war and seek out the way of peace. And if that journey is 1,000 miles, or even more, let history record that we, in this land, at this time, took the first step. A rising tide lifts all boats. The stories of past courage can teach. They can offer hope. They can provide inspiration. But they cannot supply courage itself. For this, each man must look into his own soul. The time to repair the roof is when the sun is shining, by filling 3 basic gaps in our anti-recession protection. This country cannot afford to be materially rich and spiritually poor. We can say with some assurance that, although children may be the victims of fate, they will not be the victims of our neglect. We celebrate the past to awaken the future. We have become more and more not a nation of athletes, but a nation of spectators. We must never forget that art is not a form of propaganda. It is a form of truth. We must think and act not only for the moment but for our time. We must use time as a tool, not as a couch.